This week, a federal judge dealt a major legal setback to the Trump administration attempt to withhold more than $10 billion in federal support for childcare, family assistance, and social services in 5 states. This isn't just political theater. It's a decision with real consequences for millions of families who rely on these programs every day. Before we get into the ruling, let's break down the funding at the heart of this dispute. If you know my show, you know I love numbers. It's my jam, so let's get into it. Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, short for TANF, accounts 7.35 billion of the total. A critical cash assistance program for low-income families, paying for basic needs like food, rent, transportation, and job training. Child Care and Development Fund, CCDF for short, that accounts for 2.4 billion. This helps working parents pay for quality childcare, a lifeline for families, especially single parents households trying to stay in the workforce. Social Services Block Grants, SSBG for short, and that accounts 869 million. A flexible pot of money states used for a range of services: child protective services, support for elderly residents, disability services, shelters, and more. Together, these three streams total more than 10 billion annually flowing to the 5 states: California, New York, Minnesota, Illinois, and Colorado. So who receives this support? These aren't abstract budgets. Millions of low-income families, caregivers, and children depend on them for daily survival and economic stability. Removing this support would ripple out a job participation, childcare access, food security, housing stability, and child welfare systems. In early January, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced it would freeze these funds, claiming serious concern about fraud and misuse in state-run programs. Specifically, HHS cited potential benefits going to ineligible recipients, a justification that was vague and lacked publicly provided evidence. Republican officials framed this as a program integrity action, protecting taxpayer dollars from abuse, but critics argue it was politically motivated, targeting states led by Democratic governors and attorney generals. So here's what we know. Last Friday, a federal judge in New York granted a temporary restraining order blocking Trump administration from implementing the funding freeze, at least for now. The judge didn't rule on the ultimate legality, but prevented the freeze from taking effective while the legal battle unfolded. So here's what all that means in practical terms. The $10 billion continues flowing to 5 states for at least 14 more days while lawyers prepared full arguments. The judge explicitly acted to protect the status quo so families don't face sudden disruption. States argue the funding cut was unlawful and would cause immediate chaos for services that are already stretched thin. State Attorney General called the ruling a critical victory for vulnerable families and challenged not just the freeze, but itself by the lack of evidence underlying it. Let's talk about impact metrics, the stuff that moves market, policy, forecasts, and public opinion. TANF alone supports over 15 million Americans nationwide, the vast majority of them children. Interrupting this flow could push vulnerable households deeper into poverty. Child care subsidies are linked directly to workforce participant rates, especially for women. Holding these funds could indirectly suppress the labor force engagement statistics. SSBG funds act as a safety net for everything from domestic violence shelters to elder care programs. A pause could show up as increased calls for emergency services, higher homelessness rates, and strains on nonprofit providers. From a fiscal perspective, freezing $10 billion is not a symbolic cut. It's a real contraction in public investment that could ripple through local economies and service delivery networks. This case isn't just about fraud or bureaucracy. It's about the balance of power. Who gets to decide how Congress appropriate funds or spend? Can the executive branch unilaterally withhold money without legislative authorization? Does alleging mismanagement justify cutting funds that families already depend on? The courts will wrestle with these constitutional questions in the coming weeks, and whatever the outcome, it will set a precedent for executive authority over federal funding streams. So here's the bottom line. Right now, because of the judge orders, families and providers in California, New York, Minnesota, Illinois, and Colorado won't see their support abruptly halted, at least not yet. But this legal battle is just heating up. And it's about more than just 10 billion. It's about who controls federal spending and how we protect vulnerable communities from political crossfire.